A dragon the size of a horse steps into an open field, spreads 10-meter wings, launches into the air, circles overhead, and then sends a stream of fire across the ground. Which part breaks biology first? Surprisingly, probably not the flying. Earth has already produced giant flying reptiles. Pterosaurs were not dinosaurs, and they were not birds. They were their own branch of reptiles, and some became enormous. A 2010 analysis of giant pterosaurs argued that the largest known forms were probably around 10 to 11 meters in wingspan and roughly 200 to 250 kilograms in mass. That is not a fantasy creature. That is an animal supported by fossils. So a large flying dragon is not automatically impossible. But the dragon would have to look less like a medieval painting and more like an aircraft designed by evolution. Start with the wings. A classic European dragon is often drawn with 4 walking legs plus a separate pair of wings. That gives it 6 limbs. Every known tetrapod lineage, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, is built on the same basic 4-limb plan. Birds turned their forelimbs into wings. Bats did the same. Pterosaurs did the same. A 6-limbed dragon would need an evolutionary history unlike any known land vertebrate. A wyvern-style dragon is easier. 2 hind legs, 2 forelimbs transformed into wings, and a long neck and tail. Now the skeleton has a familiar starting point. The next problem is getting off the ground. Big animals do not simply scale up like small ones. Mass rises quickly as bodies get larger, while wing area does not automatically keep up. A 200-kilogram flyer has to solve takeoff as an engineering problem. Giant pterosaurs may have done exactly that. Evidence from their limb proportions supports a quadrupedal launch, where the animal used both its hind limbs and its powerful wing-bearing forelimbs to vault into the air. Think less giant eagle flapping from a standstill, and more 4-limbed pole vault followed immediately by a wing beat. It sounds awkward. The anatomy makes it plausible. A believable dragon could crouch, load its limbs, vault upward, unfold huge membrane wings, and transition into flight. Open ground would help. A cliff would help even more, but it would not necessarily need one every time. Those wings would also be huge. Decorative bat wings attached to a bulky lizard body would not do much. The animal would need a large lifting surface, strong but lightweight bones, and enormous flight muscles. Pterosaurs show another useful clue. Their skeletons were extensively pneumatic, meaning air spaces invaded many bones, and research on their respiratory anatomy suggests a highly efficient flow-through breathing system with air sacs. That is exactly the kind of equipment a dragon would want. Powered flight is metabolically expensive, demanding oxygen delivery, heat control, and a lot of muscle power. The believable dragon is an active animal with a high-performance respiratory system, and the armor has to go, or at least most of it. A thick coat of heavy, overlapping plates looks fantastic in fantasy art. In a flying animal, every kilogram has to be lifted again and again. Some protection is possible: scales, keratin, reinforced areas around the head and neck. But a dragon built like a tank would pay for that armor every second it stayed airborne. You can see the problem in a boring way, too. Even a large meal would change its flight performance. So far, we can build something impressive. 10-meter wings, a mass in the same broad range as the largest pterosaurs, membrane wings instead of extra limbs, pneumatic bones, air sacs, powerful shoulders, mostly soaring flight with short periods of hard flapping. Then we reach the fire. No known animal breathes flame. Nothing alive has a biological flamethrower. But nature has built something that gets uncomfortably close to the first half of the mechanism. Bombardier beetles store chemical ingredients in their abdomen and combine them when threatened. The reaction is catalyzed inside a reinforced chamber and produces a hot, irritating spray that can approach 100 degrees Celsius. The beetle can fire the discharge in rapid pulses and, in some species, aim it remarkably well. That is already a tiny chemical weapon made of living tissue, but it is not fire. The spray is hot because of an exothermic chemical reaction. It is not a jet of burning fuel. A dragon would need another step. One possible fuel is a flammable gas. Biology can make those. Methane is produced by microbial fermentation in the digestive systems of many animals, and intestinal microbes can also produce hydrogen. Both gases can burn under the right conditions. The existence of biological gas production is not the difficult part. The difficult part is turning that gas into a weapon instead of a burp. A dragon would need a storage organ that could tolerate pressure, valves that could release fuel quickly, and a nozzle that would send it away from the face. The fuel would have to mix with oxygen in the correct range. Too little fuel, and it does not sustain a flame. Too much fuel, and there is not enough oxygen. And if the flame travels backward into the storage system, the dragon has a much worse problem than whatever it was trying to attack. Fine, but this is where it gets messy. The safest design would keep reactive components separate and mix them only as they leave the mouth. Bombardier beetles already demonstrate the value of separation until the last moment. A dragon could, in principle, evolve paired glands releasing components through separate ducts near the front of the jaw. Ignition is the weakest link. Electric eels show that living tissue can generate impressive electrical potentials. One species, Electrophorus voltae, has been measured producing discharges up to 860 volts. That proves biology can build specialized electrical organs. It does not prove that an animal could make a reliable spark in air at exactly the right place, while blasting flammable gas past its own face. A fictional dragon could be given an electrical ignition organ, or a catalytic structure near the lips that becomes hot enough to ignite the mixture. Chemistry does not forbid that. Evolution has simply never shown us the complete system. And even if ignition works, the dragon has to survive its own weapon. Hold a flame near your face for 1 second, and the problem becomes obvious. The mouth, eyes, and nostrils need protection from radiant heat. The ducts carrying fuel need one-way valves. The flame should begin a short distance outside the mouth, not inside it. The dragon might close its nostrils during a burst and hold its breath for the fraction of a second needed to fire. The edges of the jaws could be heavily keratinized, more like horn than soft lip tissue. The animal might angle its head slightly downward, so rising hot gases move away from the eyes. It would probably fire in short bursts, not produce an endless movie-style river of flame. That sounds minor, but it matters. A 5-second fire blast is a very different biological challenge from burning continuously for half a minute. Fuel would also have a cost. The dragon would have to manufacture it, store it, carry it into the air, and replace it after use. An animal that had just fired repeatedly might need substantial time to recharge, depending on the chemistry. This is where the fantasy dragon changes shape again. A real one would probably not spend every fight spraying fire like a machine gun. It would use flame the way a cobra uses venom or a skunk uses spray, as a limited, expensive tool. There is another detail fantasy usually ignores. A flying dragon and a fire-breathing dragon are competing for the same body mass. Large flight muscles are heavy. Fuel reservoirs are heavy. A reinforced reaction chamber is heavy. Protective tissue around the mouth is heavy. Food in the stomach is heavy. Eggs are heavy. Evolution cannot open a menu and select every upgrade for free. So the best biological dragon would specialize. Picture an animal around the mass of a very large pterosaur, with a wingspan near 10 meters. Its front limbs are the wings. Its skeleton is lightweight and pneumatic. It has an efficient respiratory system with air sacs and a large flight musculature. It spends much of its travels soaring instead of constantly flapping. On the ground, it uses folded wings and hind limbs to move and to launch. Inside the skull and neck sit compact chemical systems for fuel and ignition. Their contents meet only near the mouth. A muscular valve opens, the dragon snaps its head forward, and a brief flame appears outside the jaws. Not a 100-meter fire beam. Not an armored airborne castle. More like a dangerous biological blowtorch that works for a second or two. Would evolution ever build that exact animal? We do not know. There is no fossil evidence for dragons, no living species with this combination of traits, and several steps, especially controlled ignition, are highly speculative. But the pieces are less magical than they first appear. Earth produced flying reptiles with wingspans comparable to small aircraft. It produced beetles with pulsed chemical reaction chambers that spray near boiling liquid. It produced animals that generate high-voltage electrical discharges. It produced microbes inside animals that manufacture flammable gases. Evolution built all of those separately. Put them into one creature, and the result would be extraordinarily difficult, probably rare, and nothing like the heavy, six-limbed dragon of most fantasy art. But a lighter, pterosaur-like animal, capable of short, chemically generated bursts of flame, is not a violation of physics. The most unbelievable part of a dragon may not be the wings or even the fire. It may be expecting one animal to carry every spectacular adaptation at once, and still have enough energy left to fly.
Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. See you in the next one!